Well, thank you, David. And it's interesting when you look back at the origin of DTE and Ford Motor Company, because there were a lot of really cool technologies that were taking place. And you had electric vehicles, you had steam vehicles, but ultimately, Henry Ford came out with the Model T and the gasoline engine won. And then for 100 years, not much happened. It's interesting. If you think of a car today, you've had a series of evolutions, but really no revolutions. And yet now I think we stand at the threshold of a real revolution in the propulsion of our vehicles. And it's about time, and it couldn't be more exciting. But it's interesting because back in the not too distant past and during our dark days of 2006 through last year, one of the things I feel best about is that we didn't slash and burn our R&D budget. It was something I felt very strongly about, that we kept investing in all the new technologies that we saw out there. And now these are not just interesting technologies that they're working on, they're actually coming to the street, and they're coming very, very soon. But this is, and Ford has placed big bets in the electric area, but it's interesting because if we'd been having this conference 4 years ago, we probably would have been talking about hydrogen, and we would have been talking about fuel cells and when they were going to hit the road. And if we were having this a couple years ago, we might have been talking about biofuels and how soon that we could get the infrastructure up for biofuels and get that going. Well, today we're talking about electric. And I think it's appropriate because I'm a huge believer in electric. But it just shows you how the shifting technologies, how quickly it's happening. And I'll touch upon, even within the electric field, how quickly the technology is also changing. But we at Ford have placed big bets. We've got, next year we have an electric Transit Connect coming to the marketplace. And then we're following that up in the very next year with an electric Focus, which we're building right here in Michigan. And then we're following that up the following year with our third generation of hybrids plus a plug-in hybrid. So we've placed big bets in this area. It's something we feel very, very good about. But there are some challenges, and Tony pointed out some of them. And the question is, will the customers want these vehicles? I mean, obviously that's a question anytime you introduce a new vehicle, but I think it's particularly germane with a new technology powering it. And I think the short answer is it depends how many trade-offs they have to make. And I think the answer is customers aren't prepared to make many trade-offs at all. So it's our collective job to make sure that they don't have to. I know that this isn't really the purview of this panel, but Tony touched upon the infrastructure, and obviously that's a huge, huge issue. One of the things we certainly know is that customers don't want to be panicked when they get in their car about where and when they can recharge the vehicle. We have to make it easy for them, we have to have charging ubiquitous, and we have to eliminate that fear. I remember I used to have an electric Ranger with lead-acid batteries. This is going back, 14 years ago, that I drove to work every day. And I'd watch that meter go like this as I was driving down I-94, and I was hoping I could make it to World Headquarters before I ran out. And then, of course, if I got a call from my wife asking if I could stop on the way home, the answer was no. So, we've come a long way, and those lead-acid batteries, by the way, took up pretty much the whole load bed of the pickup. And so we have come a long way, but we still do have that nagging issue on pure electric of charging. And so we do need innovations. We need innovations to help alleviate this issue. Ford recently announced a new intelligent system for plug-ins, and Tony mentioned this, that allows customers to program their cars to charge in off-peak hours and to help lower their energy costs. And we need more of these kinds of things to help drive customer acceptance. We also need to recognize that one size doesn't fit all, and Tony also touched upon this as well. You've got pure electric vehicles, which obviously are the cleanest of all, but they will always have range limitations, and hopefully we can keep pushing those limitations out further and further, but nonetheless, they're very real. And so as we launch pure electric vehicles, we think about urban environments as perhaps the perfect place for them. Places where the vehicle doesn't have to go more than 100 miles in a day, and that they can drive around in city driving and be easily recharged. and obviously things like car share, the Zipcar model, that lends itself very well to pure electric vehicles as we start down this road. But then we have plug-ins, and plug-ins really, they certainly use a small amount of gasoline, but what they do then is they eliminate the range anxiety, and they allow customers to, if they want, to drive from California to Detroit and not worry about it. So for some customers, that will be the more intelligent choice, at least in the short term. And it's interesting, I talk about eliminating trade-offs. I think one of the things we've done a very good job of is eliminating the trade-off in the vehicle itself. These vehicles are fun to drive, the braking is excellent, the driving dynamics are very good, the usable space isn't compromised very much, if at all. And so, and that was a big concern, I think, for us, particularly as we went through the earlier generations of lead-acid batteries, is, okay, you certainly got the range issue, but you've also got the space using issue, and you've got the fun to drive thing, because one of the issues that every time we do research on any vehicle, I mean, if you ask anybody if they're an environmentalist, everybody says yes. And then, well, what they really mean is they want everyone else to be an environmentalist, and they want to drive what they want to drive. And so if we give them what they want to drive and make it fun to drive and give them the range, then of course they'll embrace it. So I think we've done, as an industry, it's very early days, but we've done a really good job of delivering the fun to drive and the no trade-offs in the vehicle. So then, of course, once again, will they buy them? Are the customers going to accept this? Well, we still have a few other issues to work out. Batteries are still expensive. And you would expect, like any new technology, that that once you ramp up the volume, the battery cost would come down. But nonetheless, the early vehicles, the batteries cost is an issue. And who owns the batteries? And that's another issue we're going through. Are they going to be leased? Is Tony going to own them? Are we going to own them? Are the customers going to own them? There are lots of different models out there that we're looking at. And we're open and quite excited about exploring all these models. But those kind of issues have to be resolved too before we can take the anxiety of electric vehicle ownership away. And I don't think it's going to be huge anxiety, because there's already been so much talk and early familiarity with the concept that I think that they're going to be very eager early adopters of this technology, and that again will help ease the transition. And of course, at the end of the day, we got to make them very safe and fun to drive, and that's our job, and we're working very hard on that, and we feel very good about it. So we at Ford have placed very big bets in this area. We believe that its day is coming. It's coming for us very soon, and this isn't just an R&D experiment for us. We have real vehicles. We place big bets, and they start coming off the line next year. So I think it's great that we're having this conference, and thank you for having me, because we truly do need collaboration. We can provide the vehicles, we can provide the hardware, but we cannot unilaterally solve the national issues that you're all discussing at this conference that absolutely need to be solved. So thank you, and look forward to the questions.